Okay. Hello. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Beverly of Miles and Coffee. And today we're having a special coffee talk with a special guest. And today's video is viewer requested, really. So, all of your questions that you've asked about TEFL today, they will be answered. As you can see by the title of today's video, we're talking about the benefits of TEFL with my advisor, Liz. So I would like to personally welcome Liz from ITA. Welcome to the broadcast. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well, especially now. It's been a while since we talked.
Yeah,
Welcome. And Liz, I must start by saying a heartfelt thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done for me because the TEFL certificate has been life changing. And not only for me, but for many people that I've talked to that have been referred and that you have helped. So we want to start by telling you thank you for all you do.
of course. Yeah, you're very welcome. Oh,
Okay. Well, without further ado, let's jump right in. Listen,
okay.
I'd like to ask you to please, for the viewers, now I know who you are, but if you could please just describe for the viewers what you do, where you're from, how long you've been at ITA.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, I am an admissions advisor at International TEFL Academy, or
Mhm.
ITA, and basically my role is just to help guide people through their plans for teaching abroad or online, answer any questions that they might have, figure out what is going to be the best fit in terms of like the TEFL course and where to teach. Um, and I have been with ITA for almost 7 years. My 7 year anniversary is coming up in December. Woo! And
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah. Originally, I'm from Philadelphia, and
Mhm.
I went to school in Los Angeles to study film. So I never planned to be an English teacher. That was not the original goal. But while I was in school, I met people who had taught abroad during the summer. And originally, I was looking into study abroad, but at the school that I went to, they would charge me full tuition for that semester, and I was on a scholarship otherwise. And so I was like, I don't want to do that. That's going to cost a lot. But when I found out that you could actually get paid to live abroad, I was like, oh, so you don't have to pay a lot. You can get paid to do this. Like, this sounds really interesting to me. So I ended up teaching in China after I graduated, and originally was only going to go for a year. But I loved it so much that I ended up staying abroad for almost 7 years. And I taught in Denmark after living in China. And yeah, at some point I realized that I had, been abroad for a really long time. I basically spent my entire 20s abroad, 22 to 29, I was abroad. And I realized when I was about to turn 30, like, oh, you know what? Maybe I should go back and try and work in the film industry. That's what I originally planned to do. So I moved back to LA and I was working in visual effects. And a friend of mine, we met teaching in China and had stayed in touch over the years. Like, she had come to visit me in Copenhagen. We went to Iceland together. We went to Peru a couple years ago. So we still stay in touch. Um, she had been working at ITA for like 4.5 or 5 years at that point, and she was in the area, and we met up for dinner, and I was complaining about working in visual effects, and she was like, "You should apply to ITA. You've taught abroad, a bunch." So I applied, and now I've been here, yeah, for almost 7 years. So yeah.
Amazing. I'm so glad you shared that with the viewers because that shows them that they'll have a broad experience if they choose to. That's the
Yeah.
point. You have options when you get a
Yeah.
TEFL. And I had no idea that you've been in China and Denmark, but I've also heard that you spent some time in my hometown of Chicago.
Yes, yeah. So back when I started at ITA, we were not a remote company, and the office was based in Chicago. And so when I got the job, you had to be in the office when you first started working there. So I moved to Chicago and lived there. And actually, the rule was that if you'd been there for at least 2 years, you could go fully remote if you chose to. And so I was actually already fully remote right before the pandemic started for a few months already. And then now I currently live in Toronto because my partner got a job there. So we were only in Chicago for like, I want to say 3 years. And we've been in Toronto now for like almost 4 years. But I really love Chicago and I would not mind moving back. It's a great city.
Wow, you mentioned that at one time everything was in office, but you
Yeah.
were fully remote before this whole remote movement. And
Yeah.
again, we're talking about options. It's my preferred way to work, but we've had both experiences. So
Yeah.
that is so great. Chicago, world-class city.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love it. Do you miss it?
Oh my goodness, I do. There are some
Yeah.
aspects of, like shopping downtown, the
Mm,
Chicago pizza, Chicago
yeah.
popcorn, and being on
Hmm.
the lake, that
Yes.
whole idea of walking along the lake.
It's
Uh,
so nice.
yeah, I'm going to ask you, can you compare Chicago with where you are now in Toronto? How would you compare the two?
Yeah, they're surprisingly more similar than I would have thought because
Hmm.
in Canada, people compare Toronto with New York City because it's like the big city with like the financial sector and tech and all that. But it's not really that much like New York City at all in terms of like, that's not a very good comparison. It's a lot more like Chicago because it's on a big lake and it has the lake effect. So it's got similar weather patterns. I find the weather is like almost the same, like just a couple days apart between the two cities. There's similar population size, similar physical size, and yeah, it's actually in a lot of ways it's similar. I will say the Lakefront Trail in Chicago is amazing. 18 miles of public beach,
Oh,
you cannot beat that. And they have some beaches in Toronto, but it's just not the same. Um, so yeah, it's not as good. But I will say the food is also amazing in Toronto because of the large immigrant population. So there's just a lot of really good authentic cuisine, although there's really great like Mexican food and Chinese food. Like there's a lot of great food in Chicago as well. Um, yeah, yeah.
excellent. Well, see, this is all a part of being, a, a TEFL teacher. These are
Yeah.
things that we can look forward to because it gives you options. Thank you for sharing that, Liz. So
Oh,
now, speaking of TEFL, we'll kind
yeah.
of change gears a little bit and start answering some of the questions. And
Mhm.
one question, Liz, that
Yeah.
viewers really always ask is, do people need a teaching degree before they apply for a TEFL?
No, the TEFL is basically like the teaching degree. That's the credential. That's the training. It shows that you know how to teach English as a foreign language, which is relevant for teaching English to non-native English speakers. So yeah, it's not necessary to even have a degree at all. But if you do have a degree, it can be in any subject. Like I was a film major. I didn't study
Mhm.
education. So yeah.
Wow. So film major, and then you went straight on to teaching English,
Yeah,
so
I did complete
mhm.
a TEFL course. But it was like so long ago that ITA was not an option. I'm like the poster child for what not to do when you go abroad. I did a cheap course with a school that doesn't even exist anymore and would not qualify me to teach anywhere. And it was a struggle, honestly, when I first got abroad because of that. And since working at ITA, I've taken the 11-week online course. And the whole time I was taking it, I kept thinking, I wish I had known this before I went to China. This would have made my life so much easier. So yeah, because
Yeah.
you do have to put more work in, but I think you get a lot more out of it.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. There are cheaper courses
Yes.
out there besides ITA, but ITA delivers from my experience and also the people that I was able to refer and
Hmm.
in talking with them afterwards, you get what you pay for. And I would highly
Absolutely.
recommend, otherwise I wouldn't recommend it. Okay, so speaking of these benefits, what are some of the benefits of having that TEFL certificate in your hand, completing the course?
Yeah, well, so it having the like some of the benefits of having the TEFL certificate, well, it does show that you have the right education because we're an internationally recognized and fully accredited organization. Our name does hold a lot of weight in the industry, and so just having that on your resume is definitely a boost to your job search, but then we also help you with the job search. We have a team of job search advisors. So you have a job search advisor you can work with one-on-one who can help guide you through the whole process, like targeting schools or online platforms to teach with, editing your resume and cover letter, evaluating job offers, general questions about the visa process. And then we have a ton of other resources, like we have a list of over 20,000 schools where our grads have taught that you can apply to, and over 100 online platforms. We also partner with some of those schools and platforms. We also have a list of recruiters that we work with in different countries. We host webinars on the job search. We have a manual that we give you that's like an encyclopedia of all the job markets. We also have a website with even more information on the job search. And then we also have the alumni groups for like the 80+ countries where we have alumni. And sometimes our alumni also hook each other up with jobs, and they organize meetups and give each other tips on finding housing and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, we provide a lot of support for after you complete the course. And that's definitely something that sets us apart from other TEFL schools.
Yes, yes, to all of the above. And I have personally experienced the support, because I've been able to reach out post grad and also while teaching. And I agree with you that ITA is different in the fact that ITA is everywhere, literally, and has so many partners. But the fact that you have mentioned the visa process, depending on where people go, they need to know that
Yeah.
all of this is part of what they are paying for. It's not just getting the TEFL and then just going to work. They have support and
Yeah.
guidance.
Yeah. We care about what happens to you. We care that you have a top quality education, and we care that you can actually use the certification or the certificate after you complete the course. So yeah.
Wow. I was going to ask you how viewers want to know how ITA assists alumni. There it is. You just gave a list of
Yeah.
things that people can help with, so they don't have to worry, because they can contact their advisor, contact ITA, and get the support that they need. Wow. So let's talk about some of these opportunities. They
Yeah.
finished the course. Now they're looking forward to doing some things with the TEFL. Where, are some
There's
places that they can work?
Yeah, there's a lot of options. So yeah,
Mhm,
there's 80+ countries where we have alumni. So you're in Latin America, like Central America.
mhm.
There's also options in South America, there's options in Asia, Europe, the Middle East. So really wherever you want to go. And then there's also teaching online, which can be done from home or from abroad. And some people even do a combination of teaching in person and teaching online. So there's a lot of different ways you can make things work. Some people are digital nomads. They only spend a bit of time in place to place and kind of bounce around like you, Beverly. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can make this look.
Well, I'm so glad you mentioned digital nomads, because that's like the buzzword now,
Yeah,
and people of a certain age like me kind of like to stay put and stay in a place for a while. But the
yeah.
younger people, or younger people that are taking the course,
Mhm.
I'm watching. I mean, literally, as long as there's a Wi-Fi connection, they like to kind of hop around and see different places, because they know they can work from anywhere. So
Yeah.
yeah, that in the location where I am right now is welcoming digital nomads, but I think
Mhm.
Mexico in general welcomes.
Mhm.
I've seen places in Spain where they're giving visas to digital nomads. So
Yeah.
that's the buzzword now.
Yeah, there are a lot of places that offer a digital nomad visa now. We have actually an article on our website. I'll have to find it and share it with you, so you can share it with your viewers. But yeah, we have like a list that's like the top 10 countries where you can be a digital nomad. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, there's like Portugal does it as well, and Croatia, and I know there's a bunch in Europe that do the digital nomad visa. But yeah, there's other places. I don't know if they have one in Mexico, because you're on a residence visa. You have permanent residency, right? At this point.
Well, I'm temporary. I'm on year 3, so next
Okay.
year they'll offer me the permanent. Yeah, but I was
Oh,
4-year temporary visa, and they said when
okay.
you turn this in, you're doing permanent. And I'm like, but of course, that's the goal, you know.
Nice.
So almost not there, but
Okay.
almost. Now we talked about age a little bit, but this is
Yeah.
another number one question, Liz.
Mhm.
You know, people want to
Yeah.
know, 50 and up, are they too old to even start the process of teaching
No,
with the TEFL?
actually, so I always find this an interesting statistic. Pre-pandemic, only about 10% of our graduates were in that age range. And now, post-pandemic, it's about 25%. It's increased a lot recently. A lot more people are looking into this as a way to supplement retirement, as something to do, a way to engage with the community if you're teaching in person, a way to travel and pay for your travels if you're a digital nomad. Um, so yeah, there isn't really an age limit for this. I
Mhm.
will say though, generally speaking, you have two types of online platforms you can teach with. You have these online language schools. They do tend to be more restrictive when it comes to age.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have like these private tutoring or freelance tutoring platforms, and they don't tend to have any restrictions when it comes to age.
Oh, got it, got it. Okay, so the age is just a number. It's not really a restriction, but depending on where you work, they might have, just like in, brick and mortar schools, there might
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Okay, wow. So, is there any other maybe suggestion? Because I know when I asked you questions, you were very good at listening and just guiding me, and it was very helpful. Would you have any suggestions for people who are thinking, but they haven't made their mind up, they're on the fence? How could,
Well,
how can they get
yeah.
started?
I would suggest either attending a webcast. I feel like those are pretty low stakes because like
Mhm,
you don't have to be on camera. It's basically like an hour-long overview of how everything works. And
mhm.
there's usually like over 100 people in attendance, and there's a question box as well. So if you have questions during the webcast, you can type in your questions and someone will answer. I often am the one manning that box. So sometimes if I'm the host, I'll be the one answering those questions. But I think it's a really good introduction to the
Mhm.
topic of TEFL. And then if you want to get more personalized guidance, I recommend speaking with an admissions advisor like me, because then I can learn more about your situation and give you guidance that's really specific to you. Whereas the webcast is going to be much more broad.
And like you mentioned, the webcast is free.
Yes.
Also, the manual to get the, kind of like an overview is free.
Hmm.
And it's been my experience, maybe it has changed, but if I leave the link, my referral link in the
Oh yeah.
comments, when they click on that link, will they have access to a webinar and a manual, Liz?
Yeah, they'll get access to the brochure, and then
Mhm.
they'll also, yeah, they'll be able to sign up for a webcast um,
Okay.
through the website. We send out email announcements anytime they occur, but they're usually every 2 weeks or so.
Mhm.
And then they'll actually, by filling out your referral link, they'll be directed to me, your advisor. So they'll get to speak with me. And they'll also get, if they decide to enroll in one of our courses, they'll get a free copy of our textbook.
Excellent. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Wow. I didn't know that. Let me write that down.
Yeah.
Okay, see, that's a perk of it's sometimes who you know. So all of
Yeah.
you listening now, you know Liz, and you heard this out of her mouth, and you can say, listen, you promised me a free textbook, you
Yeah.
know.
Let me know if it doesn't come through. That was a technical mistake on our part and we'll fix it.
Wow, excellent. So that these are benefits. I can remember my first time speaking with you. I had no doubt that this is something I wanted to do, but how to do it. And you
Yeah.
asked me questions, I asked you questions, and then during my course and thereafter, I realized, wow, what an asset you are
Oh,
again. So,
thank you.
and then to take the extra step to come on this small YouTube channel and just focusing on these viewer questions is invaluable. It's absolutely invaluable.
Oh, thank you.
Wow. So this is really, really great. I'm so thankful. Again, it's been life-changing for me. I've been teaching with my TEFL certificate now for 5 years, and it's getting better, starting, of course, face-to-face, and now online. But I think I told you that. I told you that, I asked about paying. You said, well, if you teach online, you might make more. And I remembered that. And
Mhm.
oh, what about the specialty courses? That's what I
Mm,
wanted to, maybe you
yeah.
can give us an idea of post TEFL, what's available as a specialty course.
That's true. Yeah. So these are not required, but they are continuing education options that people have
Mhm,
if they want to do a deep dive into different topics. So we have Teaching English Online, which is really for helping you navigate the online marketplace and how to market yourself
mhm.
effectively. I think you've taken that course.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, valuable,
Yeah.
because after that, I started teaching professional adults, so it was right on time.
Nice. Perfect.
Mhm,
And then we have a bunch of them. So there's like teaching business English, which is more focused on adults. We have teaching young learners, which is more for children ages 2 to 11. Um,
mhm,
the idea being that like with the 11-week online course, we're really just teaching you how to teach, or one of the 4-week in-person courses. It's really just how do you teach English to non-native English speakers? What are the methods and approaches? How do you
mhm,
identify what level a student is? How do you lesson plan? How do you pick out the right course materials for your students? Things like that. But then if you want to then build off of those skills, we have these specialty courses. And we really recommend completing those after you've completed your standard course because they
right,
really are a continuation of what you,
mhm.
but they are really helpful as resume boosters and also just understanding how to teach, towards these different groups.
Wow. Okay, this will be my last question, because while you were speaking, what would you say right now is the most popular place where TEFL teachers are attracted to? What's the most popular?
Ooh. Uh,
2024.
yeah. So look, like physical location, I would say Spain and South Korea are probably the top two
Oh,
countries. Yeah. Um, our Spain alumni group, I think, has like 3,600 alumni in it, and our South Korea, I think, has like 3,800. So yeah. People they know some Spanish or they've learned a lot of people learn Spanish, and so Spain is appealing for that option. It's also just it's a beautiful country. Latin America is
mhm,
also great. And like in Latin America, I think Mexico is popular. Also Costa
mhm,
Rica, Colombia, I would say are probably the most popular places. But yeah, like people love Spain, they love South Korea.
mhm.
And then a
Yeah.
lot of people do teach online as well. But that some people will do that like before they go abroad to help prepare for the, move, help save up, but also gain some more experience in the field. Some people
Mhm,
only want to teach online and never go anywhere. Some people want to be digital nomads. So it
mhm.
looks really different depending on the person. But yeah.
Yeah, again, it's all about options. So this has been about the benefits. If there's a takeaway that I want my viewers to know, is especially I've even had people like me who have taught in a traditional school, and they're thinking about doing something toward retirement or in retirement.
Mhm.
This is something that I'm just going to take the word retirement out of my vocabulary. I always want to have at least 1 or 2 classes. It's more like
Yeah.
a cultural exchange for me. But I tell them this gives you options, so look into it, because you might want, broaden your horizons a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that's going to wrap it up for right now.
Okay.
Thank you. This has
Of
been
course.
so informative, and we can't wait 5 years to do another one.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll
Absolutely
make
not.
this
Yeah.
an annual thing,
Yeah.
because it's so enlightening and it gives people options. So again, I always end by saying, from where we are in the world to wherever you are, hope you're having a great day. Don't forget to leave a comment. Liz will come back at least once to check through the comments. So what I'll do is, when she leaves a welcome and says, "Hello, I'm Liz," I'll just pin that, so that if you want to contact her. But also in the pin description will be a link that you can get that free resource, and then also a link to that webinar. And leave your comments so that you can get your question answered. And thank you for listening. Liz, I can't thank you enough.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to talk with you again, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too. Okay. All right. Bye for now, viewers. Thanks for tuning in.